The ones attached are some of them. He attached 28. Now when he comes to 38, paragraph 38, he brings in another kind of evidence and is telling court how he carried out an audit and discovered. What we are saying is that that is not supported. We cannot rely on his audit minus documentation because none is attached. From paragraph 38. And the ballots that he says are missing are quite many. I see 622, I see 49, I see... So this piece of evidence should also be rejected for being unhinged and unsupported. There's no proof for it. And who carried out an audit? It means he had these forms. So why isn't he attached to
center and all the people who are here? I'm not putting on my mask because I don't have corona. I checked repeatedly, so I'm not a danger to you. And the wind is coming from here to there. So I'm not receiving your coronas from that side. That's why I'm not putting on the mask. Otherwise, I have it. I have my mask here. Now, the Bible says, you people of little faith. I know the Bible in Nyankori. I don't know what's the problem with Africans. How they can sit here like maggots and they are dying and they are waiting for Europeans to save them. If the Europeans don't get a vaccine, we shall die and all will get finished. If they don't get a solution, we shall die. This one I cannot accept. I really feel infuriated when I see Africans sitting here waiting to die if the Europeans don't find a solution. The Nyankore word is Oxugay Gansa. When you are supposed to do the work, you say so and so should be the one to do it. This one I cannot accept. I was not a soldier, but when the army failed here in Uganda, we became soldiers to show that you can have an army which is an army but also disciplined. We did it. We were not soldiers. But the army was a disgrace. So we became soldiers for a mission, not looking for pay, not looking for what. So to find people here seated when they are dying and they are waiting for Europeans to discover the medicine. If they don't, we shall die. What sort of mentality is that? That's why I call it slave mentality. This is a mentality of slaves. Uganda, now we defend ourselves. In the areas where I've been active, I made sure of self-sufficiency. Uganda is not defended by the UN. Imagine African countries are defended by United Nations. People are sitting there. If the United Nations does not come, we shall die. And they really die. Seriously. Die today, die tomorrow, die. The UN has been in Congo for the last 60 years, since the killing of Lumumba, defending Congolese. I cannot allow UN to come to Uganda to defend us. Because what are you for? If you can't defend yourself, what are you for? So we are self-sufficient in defense. This region is full of chaos, but we are here. Nobody can touch us because we are confident we can defend ourselves against external threats and internal disruption. So this ideology of self-sufficiency is something I would like to really appeal to you to infect, because if you can be infected by corona, can I also infect you with self-confidence, so that you don't wait for foreigners to come and solve your problems? Imagine some people have been coming here that they want to mediate between me and opposition. Mediate why? I don't want any mediation. Everybody knows my address. I know the address of these opposition people. I can drive there and we talk. We don't need any mediation. It's an insult to tell me of mediation. So now when we come to number tier, natural products for modern science. Well, I studied biology long ago, 50 years ago. That's when I last studied biology. But I know that this is not the first time that natural products are used for modern medicine. Our scientists are aware of this. Quinine, where did quinine come from? Quinine came from a plant in South America. Is it called chinchona? How do you pronounce it? Huh? My doctor here is saying chincona. For me, I was calling it chinchona. That's where the quinine came from. To help the Europeans come and conquer us, because malaria had defeated mold. Mold. The Nyankoro word is Oruhumbo. That's where penicillin came from. Was it discovered by the other man? Was it Ian Fleming or one of those people? I'm told even insulin was being made from some animal parts. Insulin for a long time. So, to have, and Africa has got the greatest concentration of the biodiversity. There is a fellow who is being frustrated, called Magora, being frustrated by our system here. I hope the permanent secretary of police, I hope you will solve the problem of Magora. Otherwise, I will demonstrate at the Minister of Health.
It was solved, sir.
Huh?
It was solved.
Oh, Katonda was over Nangi. Because this boy Magora is building a huge factory in Matuga. Exactly you are going to be the richest part of the world because you have got all the biodiversity here. Where you can get medicines that will save the whole world. Here. Now you can hear the slave mentality. That you NBS, whatever you call it, and the other one, national drug, whatever, that their job is to assess imports. That's their job. They are Mziro. You know our clans have a Mziro. Taboos. Their Mziro is to assess a locally made product. When you bring a local made product, alteration from Mziro. For Gwafe, Gwakusaka. Our job is to Kusaka. What sort of? It's a big shame. Those fellows must change. Permanent Secretary, please make sure those people change. Otherwise, I will do something dramatic. Those of Atoro, they told you to stand up. Are they the same ones who came to see me? Ninyo mwezele kundora. Keep your mask on, don't bring your corona from Toro.
Your Excellency, Bagonza was not able to travel because we were informed quite late, but we have represented him, myself, Ambassador Katenta Puli, and Mauda Karungi. We are here, sir. We are not the group that came to see you. Nango
Yeah. Now, this was like, how far back was it?
Your Excellency, they came in March.
Yes, long ago, they came. They said, we have been using this product to cure. I don't want to tell you what they are curing. Let's first finish this one. But that they have been curing this one, the other one. Then I said, you give me some names who have been cured. They gave me some names. Some people have been cured. Because this product, if what they are is true, so somehow controlling the other problem of, you call it cytokine storm? Cytokine storm, where the body overreacts and produces a lot of fluids, and then you die from your own fluids, suffocating your lungs. So, actually it took so long. It's from March, this is now almost a whole year. What was the problem, number two? But because of the slave mentality, tell us what was the problem. Number two, don't fear. You know, they fear talk about from March, this is a long time ago.
Your Excellency, part of the problem is procurement of standards, because these standards currently cannot be ferried by air. They are tagged as hazardous material. Meanwhile, we need them to be able to confirm to the regulators. And again, a validation of a natural product scientifically was happening for the first time in the country. So,
what is the first one?
The what?
The first problem is what?
Procurement of standards.
What are standards?
And when you are validating a natural product, you need a marker, a biomarker that confirms to you that yes. For example, if I want to know that NRM is there, yellow is a marker. So, key markers for this product.
Like, these are proteins or what? What are you looking for?
Peptides. They are peptides.
Some facts.
Some
of
proteins.
They are proteins.
Yes, that will confirm to the world that yes, what you're talking about is this. And at the beginning of March, as you know, lockdown, but then of course when lockdown lifted, these standards are earmarked as hazardous, and they can only come in through the long route of by sea somehow.
They can't come by air.
Can't come by air.
Okay, thank you. So anyway, thank you. So those Batoro, they brought that rumor to my office, and I said, okay, you now go and confirm. So what did you do from that time, number two? Don't go into the details, but tell us what you did. when the Batoro came and made those very dramatic claims. It's actually dramatic. If it is true, oh.
Actually, from then on, we worked closely with Nero.
Which we used to see musical, which you watch. And said Kankana. Woman, I need tiny now. Now, a chirimus got the problem. What did you do after that?
After that, we looked at other chemical analysis where we could probably identify those markers without those standards. And government analytical laboratories, National Drug Authority, where I'm a board member, Dr. Nsereko, we all teamed up. They supported us so much to come up with a product, because as I talk, the standards will arrive next week. But we've been able to work just closely together. And Your Excellency, another thing that really supported this, I want to commend the director of this hospital. When we came in to ask for space, he said, "Can you come tomorrow?" So, and the clinicians, Dr. Bruce heading the Pulmonary Institute, because you can't think of medical doctors thinking of pulling you, together, but they've all been game changers.
What the are claiming is that they have been healing patients.
Yes.
Okay, you sit down.
What we did also, we documented stories. Previously, we hadn't documented them. Now we've documented them, and the clinicians have been able to listen.
Did you talk to those people who said they were healed?
Yes.
You even brought some to me.
Yes, I even brought some, and there have been some from Ngora. We supported a health worker in Ngora to work with the RDC of Ngora,
the woman you brought to me was from where?
He works for bank. She works for Bank of Uganda.
Oh, okay.
But one thing, people from
don't reveal too much. Too much.
Thank you.
Because they brought me, you know me, I'm also like the other man. Show me this guy. Thomas, the one of the Bible. So I challenge these people. The one who showed me the one who has been healed. And they brought me a specimen, a human being who was walking. And I had a long talk with that person. But I thought they would have moved, but it has taken so long. This was in March. Now, but you see, but even Nsereko is a specimen. She has used it for some condition. She gets some, she told me, she has got some allergies and she has used this product. You told me. So that's a living spirit who is walking here. And so she's here. Now, the slavery, procurement. You see, this is how neo-colonies are. The colonies, the banana republics. These wonderful people, the so-called procurement law, they say, what do they call them? They are called what? Tenders. Every procurement, let's see. If you are procurement beans, yes, you can have tenders, kamwenge, what? But you are procuring the other machine. What is the other machine? You said the one for oligo what?
It's called Dr. Oligo.
Huh?
It's called Dr. Oligo.
Dr. Ligo, what is it for?
It makes PCR diagnostic kits.
That one. Now, this one is made by how many people in the world? You tell us.
Your Excellency, there's only one that makes this equipment.
There's one which makes them in the world, or two. So, there are some parasites here in the town called a machine which is made by one manufacturer in the world. Why don't you go to the manufacturer yourself? Idiots. Procurement. Disgusting. You can see that these people. It's so good that we are here in the town. If we were in the bush, how can anybody even spend an afternoon wasting time with such idiocy? That's procurement law. This procurement was made by slaves. Procurement law. So, but also a lot of corruption. A lot of corruption. The so-called financial controls. The wonderful people, clever people, Uganda government cannot pay unless you have supplied. They are talking about beans. Beans with weevils here, with the mungwe. Of course, for those you can say, I will not pay you unless you have supplied. But if I'm buying an Airbus which is, I think, $60 million, an aeroplane, how will you tell the Airbus company to say, you manufacture, supply, I will pay you after you have supplied? You are just an idiot. Nobody will do that. That law is good for beans and posho and things like that, but not for serious procurement of, for instance, aeroplanes. Aeroplanes, to agree to manufacture for you, you must pay 30% down payment. I think it is 15%, and then you keep adding your. So the people who are so-called procurement people, how can they not know this? So when they were buying those machines like this one, which we want for our vaccine, they brought that law and said, go to hell, I don't want to hear that. I order you go and pay for it. Forget about that idiotic so-called procurement law. So please, now that with this new mandate, I don't want to hear this nonsense. You must build an independent Uganda. Yes, we can interact with other people where we can't do ourselves, but let's not go on with this shallowness. Now, so we are now on the vaccines. My people are working with the vaccines. Yes, the ones of the Europeans are going on, but our people are also working independently. And by the way, when those generals, those machines, and the other people were ordering some of the other things, they were told, but these are not for Africa. Do you know? These are not for Africa. That's what they said. Africa is the land of slaves. That's what they were telling them. But I said, no, for me I have my friends. If some of those people don't want to sell to us, I will go to some other people. I even spoke to the Prime Minister of India. We shall not accept dependency. Therefore, we are working on this, the therapeutic. This is one of them. There are many others, with collaboration with others. You already hear about the diagnostics. I think they have already moved some good distance. So I want to thank everybody involved. You are involved in a liberation struggle of a new type. Intellectual liberation struggle. Getting out of slavery and dependence. Now finally, in this, you will hear some words. I will no longer tolerate a situation of scientists who are worried about what to eat and what to put on. When I came from the bush, I found some scientists at Kawanda. I don't want to mention their names. One had a shoe which was like this. But he was there working. I don't want those scientists. Even if we don't have enough money, our scientists must get enough pay. Because they are the ones, if you see the problems we have had in the last year, we had locusts in Karamoja. Who helped us to defeat the locusts? Some of our scientists and the army. They are the ones who helped us to defeat the locusts. Then we had the floods, which were threatening to destroy our power stations. The high water levels. Who helped us? Our engineers. Our engineers actually helped us with that water. And with this corona, who are helping us? Our doctors. I want to thank the doctors. Those doctors have worked so hard. Worked so hard. There was one of them whom I used to talk to at Entebbe. What is his name? That wonderful, that gentleman. I just talked to one of them from at Entebbe. Now recently, when I looked for him, they had taken him to Somalia. He poached to Somalia. He told me he trained at the University of Dar es Salaam from Entebbe. So you can see that on this front line struggles, people are helping either the scientists or the security personnel. And yet they are the ones who are least well paid. Then you find talkers, just talkers. You stand up and talk. You are paid talking. The scientists will be, it's one of my 7 priority areas. So, with these remarks and some quarreling, it is now my pleasure to do what Musenero. What do I do? What do I do?
Thank you, Excellency. We have the products, and because we could not take you to give the first dose in the hospital, but you'll hand over the product to the clinical team and the protocol which they are going to follow. Dr. Chirenga?
Let me get my mask in case Chirenga brings me corona.
He has.
Tirenga, come. I'm now equipped. Tirenga, come. So now, a pleasure. Corona. It is now my pleasure and UBV dash 01 November
N.
01N to this man whom I'm keeping at a distance in case he has got corona. But I can have a photograph.
On the other side. On the other side.
Okay.
Could we stand up for the national anthem?
Your Worship, we alluded to the errors and basically it was because the applicant throughout his affidavit in support of the application. Where is the application? Your Worship, in fact, from paragraph 2 up to the last paragraph, Your Worship, what he depends or what he states is that I carried out an audit. And Your Worship, in almost all the paragraphs, he stated that the votes counted were actually different from the voters. Your Worship, I want to address you on that. First of all, Your Worship, that is the basis of his audit, Your Worship. That is the basis of his audit to actually premise his application on arithmetical errors.
How many voters were there together in Kampala Center?
Your Worship, I don't have the figures, and since it was not confirmation, so I never bothered. Your Worship, on all his DRR forms, he premises his audit on the number of female and males that voted. Your Worship, if you could look at all, that was the basis of his audit. Throughout. Yes, Your Worship.
Is there anything in between?
Your Worship, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. Your Worship, first of all, this provision under the DRR form, total number of female, total males, it is for purposes of our research at the Electoral Commission, and it is not prescribed in the law. Your Worship, what? Your Worship, yes, that is the position. Yes, Your Worship, I'm coming to that. Your Worship, when you look at the prescribed form in the Act, in the law, that is the Parliamentary Elections Act, it makes no such provision. So it is not prescribed, and this court cannot premise its finding on that, on such numbers and figures.
Which numbers and figures?
Yes, Your Worship.
No. What you're saying is up to time based on some of this part of
Your Worship, what he was doing, get the number of females and males, add and assert that the number of voters are in fact different from the number of the total ballot papers counted. Throughout his petition, throughout his application, Your Worship, that is what he did. And that was the basis of his audit throughout his application. All the paragraphs, Your Worship. And our contention is what about comparison in this case voted for? Your Worship, I proceed. Yakolanga number of voters bebano kati abavota abagamba here's a difference, he adds this to fold
ingabigata bugasatu
akwata zinazigetta
nenda kukolera number 13.
worship, for example, in paragraph 91 of your worship, he states that I have examined the election results and there are forms for Nakasero Civic Center, National Theatre, that they had errors and arithmetical inconsistencies. This was due to the fact that the number of people who voted. So how was he getting the number of people who voted? Your worship, this is what he was doing, getting the number of female and male.
What do you come to the number of people?
Your worship will consider the ballots that have been cast valid. Yes, your worship. That is paragraph what? Yes, yes, your worship.
Next step.
Yes, your worship. Yes, your worship. Yes. Yes, your worship. Your worship, these figures are filled by the presiding officers. But Worship, first of all, it is not a requirement in law that actually they should do that. That is one. It is not a requirement in law. Yes, your worship. And two, just like I submitted before, your worship, that it is for purposes of our research. Three.
Tell me, how do you do? We're here to show some appreciation for the things you do.
Sent you for today, and they sent you for tomorrow. Sent you for every time and everywhere you go. We love you so, and we enjoy life with you. We are happy, happy, happy to know that we will go with you. That's why we say thank you, thank you, thank you, yeah.
MTN ekwebaza nti thank you olw'okutulonda mu bangi. Kozesa MTN mobile money bundles olw'empeereza ya MTN endala yonna weefunire thank you points gy'okoma okukozesa gy'okoma okufuna thank you points bw'oyamba okubaweereza emyaka mingi egijja mu maaso nga tuli ffenna. Thank you.
Good Choice Nursery Primary and Secondary School ge masomero ageegulidde erinnya mu kubangula n'okuyigiriza omwana wo okuviira ddala ku nursery okutuuka mu secondary. Ku Good Choice tulina ebizimbe ne compound eby'omulembe omwana wo mwawulirira emirembe n'atajulirira waka, okossako computer ne science laboratory ebiri ku mutindo ng'oggyeko ebisomesebwa mu kibiina ebya bulijjo. Omwana agenda okuva mikono gyaffe ng'alina ebyemikono by'asobola okwetandikirawo, nga wano omwana aba asobola okwetungira engoye ezize n'ezizo ng'omuzadde, ensawo, engatto n'ebirala bingi, okossaako okulima n'okulunda, okukola juice ne cake, nga n'ennoni ze tukozesa mu kibiina tuzeekolera. Tusangibwa Kireka ku luguudo oludda ku lubiri lwa Kabaka ne Kagala ku lw'Ebukeerere Eggoma e Mukono, oba tukubire ku ssimu zino wammanga. In God we trust.
Ono ye tekinoloji omupya owa kabuyonjo. Toyireti zino tezijjula, teziwunya, ate zitwala ekifo kifunda ddala, teziganya bubi kukuŋŋaana nga septic ne kabuyonjo eza bulijjo, tezinonibwamu. Toyireti yegobya abagenyi awaka, tukwanjulira Alif Biodigester Septic Tank okuva mu Alif Biodigester Company. Oteekateeka kuzimba nju z'abapangisa, ssomero oba ddwaliro egenda mu fuuti 3x3 ekola mu ntobazi n'olukalu. Weetaaga Alif Biodigester Septic Tank ey'obuwangaazi. Tusangibwa Old Kampala ku kizimbe kya Yugachik, omwaliro ogwokubiri room namba 1. Ekyama ekiri mu Alif Biodigester Septic Tank ku luno abayaaye baakufa.
Al-Walid Investments Limited ya kampani yakakasibwa Ministry of Labour and Social Development okufunira abantu emirimu ebweru w'eggwanga. Bano balina emirimu nga cleaner nga bakukola ku kisaawe kya Nnyonyi, offloaders nga bakola ku kisaawe kya Emirates Airlines, housemates nga bakukola mirimu gya waka, ko ne ba warehouse attendants. Wekwata abeesigika ba Al-Walid Investment Limited kano kaama omusaala musava ddala. Basangibwa Natete Junju Road oba kuba ku ssimu noti 7 noti 1 7 9 5 4 8 oba noti 7 8 2 4 3 4 7 Al-Walid Investment Limited, buli muntu wako gaggawala.
Kino kyamagero nfunye amaanyi kubanga nywedde Wutamu Miracle Soda Drink. Koza obutwa musaayi n'ofuna amaanyi. Kalungi nnyo. Kasogoddwa mu Black Seed nga kakolebwa ba Soda Health Products. Bakuleetedde ne Aloe Vera Soda Drink nga kano kakola ku buli musujja gwonna n'okwoza mu lubuto nga kakolebwa mu kigaji ne Black Seed. Balina ne Pineapple Soda Drink. Kano kakolebwa mu nanasi ne Black Seed. Kakola ku bulumi mu magumba, okukolola, asthma ne ssenyiga. Bakuleetedde ne W Kombucha Sana Energy Drink. Kano kakola ku appetite ey'okulya n'okuwonya enfumbi. Ebyokunywa bya Sauda bisangibwa mu maduuka ne supermarket zonna mu ggwanga era nga byakkirizibwa aba UNBS.
The scrutiny of an election, which is exclusively to the High Court. Your Worship, in paragraph 7, 8, 9 of his affidavit in support of the application, he clearly states, I was informed, I was informed, I was informed. Your Worship, that is offensive to Order 19, Rule 3.1 of the Civil Procedure Rules. Your Worship, the provision states that affidavits shall be confined to facts the deponent which are within the knowledge of the deponent, except in interlocutory applications. Your Worship, before you is not an interlocutory application, it is a he says the application is support of the offense. Order 19, Rule 3, the Civil Procedure Rules, Your Worship. And on that note, we pray that you disregard all their permits. You speak to them and they disregard it for being inadmissible. Your Worship, it is our submission that an application to recount should not be granted as a matter of course. It should be granted as a matter of course. It should be granted on sound legal and sufficient causes. Your Worship, the arithmetical errors that the applicant alluded to are inconsequential. In many senses. And the first sense is that Your Worship, those errors do not confer any electoral advantage to any candidate. They don't. They don't. They don't confer. They don't confer any electoral advantage to any candidate. The applicant got what he was supposed to get. The first respondent was given his votes, even after the others had participated. So, Your Worship, it does not confer any electoral college, so an electoral advantage to any candidate that warrants this court to grant the application for the count. Your Worship, I have looked at all of the ERA forms, declaration of results form, and all of them are signed.
All of them are what?
By the agents.
Signed?
Yes, Bishop. By the agents of the candidates. That, Your Worship, signifies acceptance to the outcome of the election. And once that has been signed and accepted, Your Worship, the principle is stopped from actually denying and disputing the results. Your Worship, that was the position in Gagawala Wambuzi, from denying and disputing the results. In fact, his word is against his agents. Your Worship, at page 18, this is Gagawala Wambuzi. Your Worship, this is what the court had to say. Gagawala Wambuzi versus Lubogo, High Court, election petition number 8 of 2011. High Court. High Court of Jinja. High Court of Uganda at Jinja. Your Worship, this is what the court said. When an agent signs a declaration of results form, he is confirming the truth of what is contained therein that is in the ballot box, and of course the DRF form. He is confirming to the press corps that this is the correct result of what transpired at the polling station. The candidate in particular is therefore stopped from challenging the contents of the form because he is appointing authority of that agent. Further, even an agent who refuses to sign a declaration form but does not state the reasons for not signing as prescribed in the form is also stopped from claiming that there were irregularities in the polling station when the opportunity to complain, but did not. When he had the opportunity to complain, but he did not. Your Worship, throughout all these attachments, all the annexures, all polling agents signed signifying the outcome, and therefore their principle is stopped. Your Worship, if there is any who did not sign, which I did not see, then he must give a reason as to why he did not sign. And that is in law. He must give a reason. He must assign a reason as to why he did not sign, which is not reflected in all the DRF forms the applicant has attached. Your Worship, I will address you on the margin. Your Worship, comparative jurisprudence has it that the margin between the applicant and the one seeking a recount must be narrow and reasonable to trigger a recount. Your Worship, clearly the margin was huge, comparing the number of people who voted, comparing the votes cast in favor of the applicant and the first respondent. That margin is glaringly huge. And Your Worship, that is what our brothers in Kenya, they consider the margin. They don't simply grant applications for recount. And in fact, that is why in section, if the margin is less than 50, the recount is automatic. It is done at the returning officer's tally center. So, Your Worship, that gives you a range. It gives you a range. A recount where a vote where somebody is leading by 1,500. Your Worship, that is tremendous. That is tremendous, and a huge margin. Finally, Your Worship, it is our submission that the court, in exercising its discretion of ordering a recount, in exercising its discretion of ordering a recount of ballots, it should not enable the applicant to indulge in a roving inquiry with a view to fish material for dealing. Your Worship, the sense in this is that it should not be a fishing expedition. Your worship, it is my submission. It is my submission. But your worship, the sense in that, your worship, the sense in that is that should not contain applications of fishing expedition, and this is the one that we are dealing with, your worship. Your worship, with that submission, I pray that you find no sufficient cause, no merit in this application, and the same be dismissed with costs. The respondents. I used to pray, your worship.
In rejoinder, we will still follow the order of the presentation by the defense. Let me go on a fishing expedition since we are near Kabaka's lake. But I will try to be in order so that I can cover them effectively. But we reiterate our earlier submission and further submit that there is no specific paragraph that the respondents have referred to in arguing on hearsay.
9 and 7. Is it from 38 onwards?
Even 9 and 10.
Bishop, when he was referring to 38 and he was saying he did not plead or attach declaration forms.
Yes. So
he was
actually saying those paragraphs have not been proved. That's different from saying they are hearsay paragraphs.
Bishop, you know the rule of severability, that you can actually sever particular paragraphs from an affidavit. That is actually why someone needs to be specific on which particular paragraphs they have issue. Your worship, if I may continue, the respondents, the first respondent claims that the malpractices complained of are not envisaged under section 55. Our submission is the effect is envisaged. The effect of the malpractices is envisaged because the effect of the malpractices gives birth to the numerical questions. So the applicant did not want to come up with numerical questions out of the blue. He detailed the genesis of those numerical questions, and section 55 is very clear and gives court quite wide discretion. It's plain and simple. It says within 7 days after the date on which a returning officer has, in accordance with section 58, declared as elected the candidate who has obtained the highest number of votes, any candidate may apply to the chief magistrate for a recount. That is the position of the law, and that's what the applicant has done, but he has gone further to specify why he wants the recount. And he says there were malpractices which gave birth to numerical questions. Bishop, in defense of the appointments of the agents of the first respondent, there was a claim that there is evidence that there were agents But the primary evidence, which is the appointment letter, apart from one which we highlighted, is that there were supervisors. They were supervisors of polling stations, not a polling station. So, Your Worship, that is not substantiating the claim of being an agent. Your Worship, Council said we selectively relied on 55 polling stations but proved 28. 53. And in his own words, we have only proved 28.
Adduced
evidence.
Yes.
On 28.
We adduced 28.
Bishop now says we have adduced evidence.
Not now.
Yes. But written proof is now saying adduced evidence for 28 polling stations. Your Worship, that is actually why we are saying this is not by any means a fishing expedition. We are specific on the polling stations that we believe were problematic. So it is our position that we have proved numerical questions in 53 polling stations, much as it's the first respondent's position that we have only adduced evidence on 28 of them. So, Your Worship, to begin with, 28 polling stations are problematic and have numerical questions. To begin with, it's more of admission. Yes. They've only attached 28. Oh, no, are now attached, not adduced.
Because you're putting words in my mouth.
So what do they want? For the 53 or over 58? Other 28?
Your Worship, let's go to the margin. We will just take a quick sample of the annexures from B. If Your Worship, you refer to attachments B. And this is why I will also join in with EC. EC has actually told court that they have two forms of declaration forms they choose to use. I don't know when. He was drawing one out of the law and one within the law. But we shall stick with this one because they issued it at the polling station. B, the one of Summit View. Is it? Summit View? ON to Z. Annexure B. Of applicant. Is that Summit View? Yes. ON to Z. Yes. First of all, you submit that these forms are provided for in the law and are the ones that this court has to consider in its deliberations. We do not agree with counsel for the second respondent that these forms are useless, as he tended to sound. Yes.
You said parts. Useless.
Of the form.
That's what I say.
So some of them are filled in, others are.
Not only that, Your Worship, we will show you that even in the mandatory parts, some are not filled. even in the minority parts, some are not filled. It's a habit of the EC. Yes.
So your agent signed.
And it's part of the malpractices we are talking about. Yes, Your Worship. Worship, I'll show you some who are very lazy that they didn't even fill up the total number of ballot papers issued at the polling station. Just that's what I'm going to show court. That these forms are, first of all, the evidence of what transpired at the polling station. Actually, there is an upcoming petition where voter civic education and even polling agents is going to be a very serious issue, because many people, that's why you realize some polling stations have so many invalid votes.
He came up with the correct figures. But me, I'm looking at the, like, just simply like adding. Maybe the whoever is at the polling, is it the polling presiding officer? They should be maybe provided with calculators or something, because sometimes their figures don't add up. They may be correct without any malice or anything, but just out of maybe adding on their own. Mental work.
Where the malpractices happen.
Apana.
On those additions and non-additions and cancellations, that is right.
You mean it is deliberate?
Yes, in most cases.
But now, like I saw one of them, I think they realized, this person realized the mistake, and he or she cancelled. They cancelled and put the correct figures, meaning that he had, for everything, he had made like the wrong totals in the total number of votes cast, and then invalid, and then those which were unused. I don't know how they were adding up, but they crossed and countersigned that it was a mistake. So. No.
But I will tell you that even the movement of the ballot boxes from the polling station to their offices, a lot of stuff happens. Let me go to the.
Yes, B, annexure B. That's a view O to N to Z. The total number of valid votes cast for candidates. That means the votes that were counted and confirmed as valid votes were 479. The rejected votes were 18. That brought the total to 497 ballot papers that were used, because 0 were spoiled. Now, that polling station had a total of 750 ballots issued at the commencement of the election. Worship, if you get the number of total ballots used, that is both valid and rejected, and you subtract from the total number of ballots that were issued, you get a difference of 3. There are 3 unaccounted for ballots. Yes. Valid is 479. Invalid is 18.
Which wouldn't change the margin.
To 53 years. So there are 3 ballots that are not accounted for by the second respondent, either by reduction or addition. No, Your Worship. They become an issue.
That is what you should have said, yes, that they come to the applicant. But it wasn't mentioned in your affidavit.
Your Worship, if you go to C, the next annexure.
So they confirm the advantage to the candidate.
Summit view K to M. That is C. Summit view K to M. The total number of votes that were issued at that polling session was 1,100. I've begun from down after. 1,100. Total valid votes 741. Invalid 23. Total valid and invalid is 761. When you deduct from 1100, you get 336, not 313. 23 ballots not accounted for. Worship, like I said, because of time, I will just sample to show you what we meant when we referred to these declaration forms.
I should have put specifically everything, but I didn't.
Worship, I've moved to G. That is TLC. I think it's Gender Love and Care Leisure Center. Yeah. Kamocha 2. And that is annexed U. Kamocha 2 TLC Leisure Center M to ANK. Worship, are you there? Yes. So that's an interesting one. Total number of valid votes cast for candidates 352. Invalid or rejected votes 19. That brings the total to 361. Total number of spoiled ballots 0, we presume, because it's blank. Number of ballot papers issued to the polling session. They first wrote 7 plus 11 in figures, but in words it's clear 361. Now, if you deduct, you get 0. But for them, they deducted and got 489 unused.
So that's what I'm saying. Maybe the council, they should have added this total of what was cast to this which remained to make the total number of votes, say that would be 700 or 800. That should be the figure.
Are you calling it? No. Your Worship, 489 is a very deliberate figure. Actually, handwritten 48, they cancelled and wrote 489.
Those are ballot papers which are not used.
Unused, yes, Your Worship.
Meaning that if you add, if you like, as in logically, you add what was cast as a valid vote and rejected,
yes.
It's 300 something.
You subtract from what was given to you.
No, it's 300 something.
Yes.
So you should add it to this 489. That means that the total number of votes, ballot papers issued at that station should be either in 700 or 800 something, which this person I think failed to put, because this column shows the total number of all votes.
Your Worship, the columns are very clear. Your Worship, the column is very clear. The total number of ballot papers issued to the polling station.
There are 18.
300.
No, this one. Total number of ballot papers. There are 18. 7 plus 11 is 18. So they can't be 18 and there are 360 something valid votes.
You can't issue 18 ballots to a polling station.
But that is what it is saying.
That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't make any sense.
In words, they have written 361.
But even in words, it's not correct. Because if you look at any other form, logically, that total number of ballot papers has the highest number, has the highest figure, either 1,000 or 800. And those which are cast as spoiled is the other difference. But clearly this person, I think, did know what they were doing.
Yes, but now we have a critical question that can be resolved by you going to that box. And
are you sure?
Yes, Your Worship. Because in that box you will get the evidence.
So how are you sure that after making that the person has 18 votes given totally, but people have cast the votes at 300 something, how sure are you that you are going to find them in the box? Won't you find the negative?
Yes, you see, the issue of recounting is you actually go and look at what, it's a process, you look at what is in the box and compare with what is here, because there is a question here.
But this one is the like on the face of it, or primacy as you'd say, it is something wrong. Even looking at other forms, you'd find this particular form has a problem.
Maybe you go to the next one, H. H actually, unused ballot paper 0.
Meaning they used all of them?
No, actually blank, not 0, blank. And yet below they say the presiding officer should ensure that all information is duly filled and signed. But then you look at total number of unused ballots, and that's where ballot stuffing comes in. You find that you don't have unused ballots. Where did they go?
You mean they are given to other places to go and stuff?
Yes, because if you look at the balance, it's about 167, but they're not recorded.
From which, how did you get the balance as 167?
Valid votes plus invalid votes.
That is what?
You get 337.
To what?
Yes, to the polling station. Total number of
it's 337. The balance is 0. What was given to them is what they used. Nothing remained.
Yes, they should indicate in that 0 is what was.
Earlier on you said if there is no figure blank, it means nothing. So, but the other one, the G is what has an aerial error. This one which has 7 plus 11.
Yes. Let me finish with J. Because like you said, some court could give the benefit, but some are obvious. J.
What do you mean they are obvious?
Jambula A and M.
How much are Jambula?
Yes. How much are Jambula and M? Now that one, they don't tell us how many ballot papers they received. I don't know whether it also means 0 since it's blank. They didn't receive any. The blank means 0. Then unused also blank. I think it also means 0. But that's what I'm talking about. And now you look at this declaration form, you may argue that the SI.
What is the procedure of the Electoral Commission? Do they always give the ballot papers in excess of the number of voters?
Yes. And that's where the challenge comes. If you don't account for every ballot, the presumption is it has found its way to somewhere. That's why that's what he has to explain where.
Council is engaging into matters which are no capacity. But in fact, that is why in our submission we say there's a difference between a recount and a scrutiny of votes. The scrutiny involves audit, and this is exactly what, and the scrutiny is before the High Court.
So that's the point of order of the information. If you look at this declaration form, you can only ascertain what actually happened when you look at the box, the ballot box. Because here, you don't even know whether there are any unused ballots and how many were actually issued and how many were used.
Proceed.
Yes, we have heard what the declaration, what she's talking about the declaration form. But this information is not contained in his affidavit. We should have put it exactly the way he's saying, with other evidence from the back.
That's
what we have been talking about.
No, I'm making submissions and referring to documents on
But it's still evidence.
No, I'm not in the Electoral Commission. This is a declaration form issued by EC and filled by an official. Are you doing it? Yes, if I beg to be protected. Because no, I'm referring to you. You say this does not fall under the ambit of recount. I'm showing the malpractices or the misactions that give birth to numerical questions. There are numerical questions in this code that require this vote to be counted.
Isn't it more than numerical questions now, from what we have looked at? It goes beyond just numerical questions. Council Golobi officials don't know mathematics, they don't know how to add. Oh, you can't hear me. Your officials don't know how to add, they don't know mathematics. Maybe you should take them through a first lesson of maths. I mean, just look at some of the forms. Anyway, because either the person is not, I can't say educated to know what to fill where. But I think the one who left it blank is much better than the one who puts in wrong figures. Like there are some who left them blank, total number of votes, ballots given, and those which are unused. There are some which have been left blank. I think such a form, I think such an officer, if they didn't know what to do, then this one has put in wrong figures, like 7 plus 11. You can't have 18 votes, ballots given to a polling station, and 369 people have voted. But the information filled by your officials is lacking in some, not all, in some. So maybe it needs also, you first teach your people, give them sample forms to fill in, do some kind of moot election, and give them like an exam, please fill in. And I don't think now, like, of course now that he's a second respondent, I think you should take note of that.
Yes, Worship, we'll take note of that. But Worship, we have no incident at all where actually the votes are given to somebody, which after the votes, whoever gets the vote, the number of votes that you get, are the ones that actually are filled in the form.
Yes, because I think I've had, there was an incident of a case where I think there were councillors in Sirambi village, where like each of them had a DR form, and one said I polled 120 votes, but she was given 20, the one was removed, and the 100 was actually removed and put on another candidate, and you would really see that 100 votes had been moved and given to another councillor. So it was obvious for that one. You said it was obvious there was some malpractice. But in these ones, you don't see that maybe Cedric Babu's votes have been given to Nsereko or to Nyanzi.
After the worship, the incident was mentioned, automatically false correction. But in this case, the applicant before you is not telling you this is what I vote, this is what I vote, this is what I vote. So, in fact, he appeals to all the figures that were different. And giving messages.
But do you have different DR forms? Because I had an instance where each person had their own DR forms. The petitioner, the applicant, and then the electoral commission. There are 3 sets of DR forms, and you wonder which is the correct one.
Yes, I think the EC feared to bring that DR forms. Ideally, Worship, I'm answering that we only have ours because it's us who deliver.
Plus his. Don't you bring yours?
So we brought just 4, which must be there.
Not like you brought 6. But you also brought DR forms.
Yes, on some of them.
Yes, on the affidavits you have attached.
So yes, what I'm saying is ideally that comes in when EC attaches anything, which they did not. If they attach any forms, then but yes, I want to finish because that was my point. That
so the DR forms have apparent errors.
Yes, and numerical in nature.
Not only numerical. That's what I'm saying. That they're more than numerical. You can see like that information will be numerical. You have plus 11 as the first number of votes which have been given, and then what is cast is 300 something. I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe it was it 7-11, 7 plus 11. I don't know.
Yes, I want to make a point that in all that we are saying is that if you go to the problematic boxes, the importance of recounting is once you go to the problematic boxes, you allocate everyone their votes as were ticked in the boxes, and you do a tally, and you add onto the non-contested results. You will either find that the applicant has succeeded or not. Because you can't rely on these forms, they are lying.
They are lying?
Yes, they are.
Even where your agent signed, they are lying.
Yes, the ones I've pointed out, actually one says we are not given any ballot papers. That's a lie.
No, but your agent signed. A lie?
We have explained that these agents were harassed and chased away.
No, Councillor Mary. At least if you said threatened and they signed, but just away, then the ghost comes back and signs what signs?
Yes, that matter it was not substantiated or proved, but we say signatures were forged. Yes, it is in the paragraph. That's what I'm saying, that it was short of trying, but that was the intention. Explain that some of the signatures were forged, just like you're saying that some of the forms had errors.
Maybe they were double agents. Do you know double agents?
I know. But you and me know.
Or seven.
So signature on a form.
No, the thing is, they bind the principle. The fact that they sign and they bind the principle.
Yes, they do.
As council
brought it there. It can't bind together with the illegality. For example, the irregularity of not declaring the number of ballots received at the polling.
That one is his problem. Council will solve his problem.
So, even as we talk about binding the principle is not the only player in that applicant in this process. It's the electoral commission, the other candidates, and the election as a process as a whole. So for you to say, because the form is signed by your agent, it means no ballot papers were given at the polling station, that is okay, and you're found, I think that's not the principle of the law. When we go to Ngoma Ngime and win the Nyima, they claim that there were only two. You see, Yoship, even if they attend, the issue is if there are ballots that are not accounted for and the evidence is there before court, that is a numerical question. And the custodian of that evidence is the ballot box, that black box that contains everything that transpired on that day.
For example, we have pointed out that after the entire audit, 2,577 ballots are unaccounted for. It surpasses the difference with which the first respondent purported to win. That means if you trace those 2,000 something votes and place them in the right position,
they're different.
The result changes automatically.
They could be yours.
And actually you find that they all belong to Muhammad Nsereko.
Yes, that provision is also there in the law.
Then it means that he actually, the margin even goes bigger.
Exactly, it's possible, but for us we are saying this was deliberate because of the malpractices we have explained against the first and second respondents. It's a position that these were committed by these.
Committed by who?
By the respondents.
But, okay, this is off record. If it was by the respondents, why wouldn't they give them to the first respondent? Why would they leave them flying around like atoms or whatever, which have no mass or anything to settle? They're just radicals. Free radicals moving around, they can't settle.
Yes, since it's off record.
Yes, it's off record.
You see, in elections, everyone goes to that polling station deliberately with something. No one goes there by mistake. And they know exactly what.
Even the voters?
Yes. Yes.
You go to vote and leave.
And
you don't go to vote and rig elections. I don't think you go to do that.
Council is recording at me.
Which one council?
Yes.
Council Nsereko, you keep quiet, let him talk.
So I'm telling you that some
this is
people,
still off
that's why you
record.
have seen elections are now for bribery and those other malpractices, because some people go there deliberate and they are calculative. They know if we just let him win everywhere, questions will arise. That's why you see in some places.
In some of these places in Kampala, if you have to nullify, because the electoral commission won't, you shouldn't go to the polling station with colors of your party and anything to do with your party. But if you moved around like this just concluded election of which the 25th Monday, the people deliberate with their color parties and they are full at like almost trying to continue campaigning at a polling station. You would even say that now we should just nullify that whole process. But Electoral Commission, I think, is lenient, leaves people to do what they want. And another place where you find even a candidate's poster is put at the entrance of the polling station, such that in case you've forgotten whom to vote, look at that and then you can't vote. So I mean, those are like the open, and yeah, I won't say which parties, because you could see from the colors and know where they fall. But I think some of the blame is not the electoral committee. The people themselves, they don't just, for you due respect, Ugandans have learned how to disobey the law. They don't want to obey the law. You say you go this way, for them they want to go this side, and you won't force them. Yes. And so until maybe the legal minds, you come up and say, well, this is the right way to go, and bring back people to court. Because if a court gives an order, and for you, maybe as the police or military, say, I'm not obeying that order, then there's no point of coming to court, isn't it? Yes. And some of these things, as you've noticed, maybe when you look at these affidavits and attachments, you may read more into them than maybe what we are submitting here.
I want to finish on the point of the affidavit of the EC official, where she submitted.
She said you said total denials and everything.
Yeah, but she says she submitted. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. She should have attached proof that she has actually submitted, transmitted the results to EC. Otherwise, this court is only guessing. Maybe she did, maybe she did not, just because she said it in her paragraph 12. She should have attached, because she retains copies of the transmitted results. So, Worship, we reiterate our earlier prayers that this is a proper case for an order of account, and we pray that you... Worship, when I mentioned the issue of costs, I did not mean that because the 600,000, then a recount is automatic. I wasn't saying that the remedy for respondents is provided for under the law. In case they succeed in such an application after a recount, the results remain the same. The law says they are awarded costs, and they begin from the 600,000 going upwards depending on how much has been expended. The rest I guess. Worship is a beginning point. Every journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Yeah. So, Worship, we reiterate our prayers.
Your Worship, for purposes of justice, and that last question, we have a transmission, and the council made a contention and a submission to that transmission. First of all, we should have either cross-examined the returning officer to establish. Two, we have it. We can.
It is the first annex.
Your Worship, in fact, it is their document. It is here, Your Worship.
Annex yes. The transmission of the
Council Mary, then this is the document.
Worship, I'm only wondering who received that EC, because I only see the returning officer.
Who received that EC?
Yeah, because you have to prove that you actually transmitted. But this is the document, right?
But it is attached to your
This,
Why did you bring it in your evidence?
Worship, it was to show the results. But the fact, proof of transmission is when you take and someone receives.
But that's the heading, return form for transmission of results. You want to be like one person came to court carrying a document, and he didn't know he was carrying a warrant of arrest against himself. I asked him, what are you carrying? He said, they told me to bring this. I said, do you know what this reads? It's a warrant of arrest. So now what you are saying is not there, is exactly what is here.
What I'm saying, Your Worship, is who received this?
Then why did Nyanzi attach it as the very first document on his documents?
Because this document was given to him on that day. 15. That is evidence from the file. No, I see the document. And it was given to him on that day. So when did they transmit? That's actually my point. 15th January. That's when they declared results. So did they transmit that day? Actually, what we're saying, that should come also in your affidavit. No, this, I'm talking about the document. It's dated. You see, I think you get my point. This
so, Council Gorobi, do you have any other with added stamps or apart from this, which is received by IC? Why? And is it an exact document like this one? Or you can't tell?
Your Worship, it is, it comes with the report, so it is slightly different from this one.
It comes with what kind of report?
Your Worship, the report, it comes with the report. Your Worship, we have it, you can avail it to court.
No, Your Worship, we are finished with him. You are saying any other documents. Yeah, there are some documents that were mentioned but not.
But you say they don't have any.
How?
When I say like here, why didn't you attach them?
I think it's the same reason because he did not attach the other one. Yes, I'm being honest. If you realize this,
okay, you show them to council, both council, and see if they will accept. But you show them to both council, but no, but I need to make a ruling because you know that the days for recount, if there's going to be a recount, it is time bad. So the moment we delay. So do you think this court without those affidavits can't reach a just decision without those DR forms?
You have up to D, annexure D.
Yes, I have, but annexures are up to, is it W or something?
That's okay for us.
Did this one?
Because I just do and I don't think they will.
That, what are they marked as?
No, these ones I wanted to, that you say that's what we have.
But do you have the original document? Do you have the original?
Of yours?
Yes. There, do you have the original?
Not here. Here, I have.
Let me see those originals. And they are not marked, eh? we come for the ruling? Asking you, you need to be guided. Why you like leaving everything to court? You know what the time is? So, can you be here tomorrow for the ruling? Councillor Meli? Yes. Yes. Yeah. So, the ruling will be delivered tomorrow, 28th of January 2021 at 11 a.m. Same place, same time.
Tujja kuwa ensala yayo enkya ssaawa 5 wano wenyini wetubadde.
So you are free to at that place. That's done too. If we came together, let me put my things together. Unless I get out, some of them can't get out there. What? I haven't done my things,
bayiyabuyiya naye ekyokujja kubeera kulamula kwa kkooti kubanga okiraba ne buli wabagamba nga bwe mulabye nti polling stations erisinze yawangulayo akati ogamba otya nagobawo abantu nenkyusa ebintu ate nesseewa kwega ereetebwa mu mwoyo mubi olaba omutima mubi omutima gwafutwa gwa fitina ekyo kirabamu nti just fitina nakasajja Seruganda kamutudde mu kifuba kubanga olibo omubuuza aga nti waliwo besiraba question bwali bwani aga nti Summit ekololo nze nafuna butono nnyo sinze ne yawangula naye kyekimu kakati kyagamba nti bwe tubagenda eri ne baga nti okuyisaawo Nsereko ate kati abasirikale bonna mulonde Cedric kuba twaliyo nga naffe abantu baffe balwanisa embeera eyo naye ndowooza bannaffe ematira yaabwe mmeeme okumatira kwabwe kutono nomale mubaamu abantu ng'okumatira kwabwe kutono nga ne bwomuwa kyenkanaki okusiima kwe kutono ekyo kiri mu bantu mubaamu ebika by'abantu abafaananako bwe batyo naye weetuli mu kkooti nange mpatisipati nze nga munnamateeka nebaza bannamateeka okuva ku njuyi zonna abegazezaako okwajuwinga keesi naye katulinde okulamula enkya ate tujja kubabuulira ekiddako.
tuyanze omubaka Nsereko bwati batuwadde ku sayye katunoonyeko wano oluvannyuma tukisiibule naye nga tuli butereevu mu kkooti wano emengo wetubadde okuviira ddala ate ku ssaawa 5 paka zino kubanga tukoko Nyanzi chairman ate naye atufuleko ku saidi ye abalabi baffe zina kubanga tufunako ku chairman Nyanzi wano katono nnyo mu kigambo kimu chairman ebintu birabyo bitambudde
birabyo bitambudde Katonda ine ensonga lwaki nawangula nene batannangirirawo kubanga mission yaffe nnene nga tutandikira no mu kibuga okutta culture okutta enkola y'okubba obululu oba babye mu ngeri ki babye mu ngeri ki ekigambo ky'okutta enkola y'okubba obululu tuyina ogijjawo so Katonda asifayo kunkozesa mu kiseera kino mutalangirya buwanguzi bwange kasitanyizibwa y'obululu neerabika era ne bwe nandiwangudde nga mpangulidde ku bululu butono nandize mu kkooti okunoonyereza ekyo ekyasigaddeyo
Nsereko agamba nti kasajja ku mutima
siina kasajja ku mutima kubanga nze omu ku bamenta be mu byobufuzi kyekibuuzo bw'aba yogedde bwati yogedde bubi
kati kyekiddako okulinda byankya
tulinda byankya kyonna ekivudde mu maaso g'omulamuzi naye kiva mu kino si kyekikoma kubanga tulina ne petition
tuyanza nnyo tuyanzeege chairman Nyanzi yoyo gobadde owulira n'ebigambo bye ebyebyo saawa zino kooti emaze okulayika nti ate adijaninga paka olunaku olw'enkya ebigambo byagenze mu maaso n'otuwulirako katono nnyo katufuneyo ku kasembayo then oluvannyuma tugende mu nteekateeka zaffe eza bulijjo
ekibadde mu kooti nze nkyaniriza era nakikkiriza obutannangirira mangu ku buwanguzi Katonda yalina ensonga eyamba okunoonyereza
happening now tutaataaganya mu mpeereza yaffe okukutuusaako ebyakagwawo happening now happening now Soul Television Femunyo The Lord's Prayer